Hey, welcome back to Spring into Math 5. This is Mr. Stein here again, and today we're talking powers of 10. Powers of 10. A power of 10 is the result of multiplying 10 by itself a certain number of times. Now, the exponent in a power of 10 is telling you how many times the 10 you're going to use it as a factor. In a power of 10, the exponent will tell you how many zeros will be in your answer. So those things kind of all go together. So think about it. We know a power of 10, we're going to multiply it a certain number of times. We know that the exponent is going to tell us how many times we multiply that power of 10. And then in a power of 10, the exponent will also tell us how many zeros. And that's kind of like our cheat code to make this lesson just a tad bit easier. All right, now, let's look at this graphic to kind of get that idea of both how you multiply it together and what the exponent symbolizes in terms of the number of zeros you're going to use. So let's look at this one. The first two are kind of odd. They're not something that you see very often, having 10 to the 0 power. Well, 10 to the 0 is just 1 because you have, well, 0 zeros. Then when you get to 10 to the first power, or 10 to the 1, you have just 10 because you just have 1 0. And now you can kind of see a pattern develop as you look down. So you have 0 all the way down to 6. And if you see this, on the other side you have no zeros and you have 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 zeros. So the exponent is really just telling us how many zeros we have because it's powers of 10, and 10 is kind of a unique number. But let's really look at this mathematically. And so this next example, it's really going to show us how you really look at it in a mathematical sense rather than just kind of using that trick to figure it out. All right, so we have 10 to the 4th power. So we already know, based on the other slide, that you're going to have 4 zeros. So it's not some secret that we're going to get to 10,000 because we have 4 zeros. But let's look at it mathematically so that we can then apply it to other numbers in later lessons. Okay, so we have 10 to the 4th power. Now, this is what I like to call my triangle strategy. And all that is just making sure you write it below itself and keep yourself organized and keep writing down. And what I mean by that is when you solve something, write it and write the other things you still need to multiply so that you stay true to it, so that when you're doing things later on in math with exponents and order of operations and all these different things, that you don't make silly errors. You don't want to make an error because you weren't willing to spend 10 seconds longer on a question. All right, so let's look at it. So remember, 10 to the 4th power is the same as 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So essentially 4 10s multiplied together. So if I do that, by this strategy, I'm going to multiply the first two 10s together. So 10 times 10 is 100, you can see it there, times 10 times 10. And I just kind of brought those other two 10s down. So if you think about it like that, these 10 times 10s, I just brought them down right along with it. So then I'm going to multiply 100 times 10. So 100 times 10 is 1,000. And then again, I write that 1,000 under it, times 10 again, and then 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. Now, let's look at one more just so you really understand this concept. All right, we have 10 to the 3rd power. So we have 3 10s, 10 times 10 times 10. I know it's kind of a mouthful. You keep hearing the 10s and 10s and 10s, but stick with me. We're almost done. So we have 10 times 10 times 10. So I'm going to multiply those first two 10s together. It's going to give me 100. So then I have 100 times 10. And if you notice, again, I just wrote it right below it. And I made sure I rewrote the other 10. Even though I know I'm only doing that one more step, for me it's just a habit. And good habits kind of breed successful math. So I have 100 times 10, it gives me 1,000. And if we check it with our trick, we have 3 as the exponent. The 3 is going to tell us how many zeros we have. In the number 1,000, we have 3 zeros. We know we got it correct. We know we're done. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for powers of 10. I'll see you next time.